right, we're going live. I have no idea. I'm going to try to do this really quickly, mainly because I know credit is like super dry of a topic. It's not very exciting. It's not sexy. It's not fun. But I think it's very important to understand. And from some of the conversations I've been having from just a bunch of people, apparently a lot of people don't know much about credit. So I think it's worthwhile to talk about it. By the way, what up, Andre? By the way, just as some background to why I'm talking about credit, why I think it's important. By the way, I got some notes. That's how serious I'm trying to give value to you guys. I got some notes right here. But sort of just to kind of go into why I think credit's so important. One, you need credit for like everything. I'm going to get deeper into why and how to get into credit and all that stuff. Me personally, for those of you that do not know, I struggled a lot with credit, finances in general. Everything I know about like money, finances, I had to learn by basically myself through books or just through trial and error, YouTube videos, of course, and classes. But I do know of some people who come from like wealthy families, wealthy backgrounds that are sort of, I don't want to say inherently good with money or credit or whatever, but their parents sort of instilled certain habits upon them. I think if you were to ask them about credit, they wouldn't really be able to give you answers about why things are a certain way or any real strategies. But their habits let them utilize credit effectively just because they were taught that from a kid. I did not have that growing up. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. But I want to kind of help people from past mistakes and failures so they don't make the exact same mistakes that I made. Plus, I'm hoping I can kind of, if you're watching this, give you some tips or tidbits, whatever, that you may not have known that help you out. If you see me glancing down a lot, it's because, like I said, I got a lot of notes. Definitely trying to get some value to you guys. I was going to at first wing it and just kind of go off the dome, but I have a tendency to get into tangents like I am now and kind of get all distracted and sort of disorganized, so I didn't want to do that to you guys. By the way, 2 disclaimers / I don't know. 2 things I want to mention. One, all the information in this, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a real estate advisor, but I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an accountant. I am nothing of that sort. So if you want specific information legally, I cannot give you that information. I'd recommend reaching out to a financial advisor or something like that. And 2, if you don't want to watch the whole video, because like I said, I got a lot of notes, so I don't know how long this video is going to be. If you want to check it out though, I'll have this on my website, lennyrichardsson.online, and it'll be on my YouTube page as well, which is just leviticusrich on YouTube. And I think Instagram saves these lives, so you'll be able to catch it on my story as well, I believe. And I might even upload it as like an IGTV to my feed. So I'm gonna get into it. Starting with my notes, I gotta kind of glance back and forth, so I apologize for any gaps and all that good stuff. Got some people joining. What's up? What's up? Give everybody a wave. Alright, so first thing, why am I even doing this? One, so many people I talk to do not know anything about credit. These are people that are in their 20s. I think if you're in your 20s, you need to be getting your credit score up. You need to be really tackling credit. Credit is super important. I'm going to get into why in this video. But like I said, I have had experiences where my credit has been terrible. I had times where I didn't have credit and it cost me money or cost me opportunities. Get credit, start today, get it. You need it. If you're 18, get it. If you're in your 20s, you should have already had it, but definitely get it. And one thing I want to just kind of announce, sort of preliminarily, whatever. I'm starting this project. I'm trying to play with the name. It was called the Good Life Project. Now it's called the Better Life Project. I'm not too sure what the final name will be. But essentially what I want to do is sort of gather a bunch of different professionals from a lot of different industries and do sort of bi-monthly, so every other month, do sort of a workshop or a course. It'll be in person. My goal is to kind of get some technology together. So it'll be streamed live as well, and you'll be able to catch it on YouTube, you'll be able to catch it on Instagram, on Facebook, wherever it's most comfortable for you. But I want to get some actual professionals to to speak about a topic of their choice. As I often advocate on my Instagram and all my social media pages, I think the best lived life is to optimize in health, finances, and relationships. And I want to bring industry leaders in to talk about those three topics. And each course or each workshop, whatever you want to call it, is about 25 minutes to 45 minutes long. So it's not super long. I'm trying to find people who can give really practical tips so you can walk away being able to actively do something in one of those three pillars, as I call them: health, wealth, and relationships. But that's sort of why I'm doing this. Right now I have two guests lined up. One of them is my broker. He's going to talk about real estate investing and how to be financially free within 5 years. He's actually writing a book that should be out, I think, in October or November. So that'll be a really good workshop / course. And I have another friend who, he used to be in real estate. I think he still has his license as an agent, but he doesn't actively practice full time. He used to own about, I think, 50 plus rental units. Definitely a good person to talk to. He's going to do, I think, a presentation online. It'll be streamed on my website unless things change and he decides to do it in person. But he's going to talk about how to leverage money to make more money, which sounds like investing, but it's a little bit deeper than investing. So hopefully that should be very informative. What's up, Gloria? I can't really see, it's kind of bright out here, so I apologize if the light's a little bit weird. But yeah, so I'm going to start getting into this. That's basically the reason why I want to do these videos. That's why I'm trying to kind of give more value to you guys. For anyone that watches this, for anyone who knows me, I hate college. I think college is the worst thing. I think it's a scam nowadays. I don't think it was always a scam, but nowadays I think it's a scam. So one of my big long-term goals is to kind of educate people and fill in the gaps that college, for whatever reason, over the past hundreds of years, decades, whatever, chose not to fill in. So let's get into this. Why credit? Starting from the very bottom. This is going to be a long video, so stick with it. If you're watching at a later date, feel free to fast forward through and rewind or whatever. Why credit? Basically, and this is weird because they don't teach this in school, you need credit to do anything meaningful, anything useful. You need credit for it. If you're trying to buy a house, you, for the most part, need credit. If you're trying to get a car, even if you're trying to lease a car, you, for the most part, need credit. If you're trying to get into certain business transactions, any type of situations like that, you need to have credit. Credit is extremely important. What is credit? Credit essentially helps people, specifically a lender, determine if you are reliable. Are you trustworthy? If we give money to this person, will they be able to pay it back? Will they be able to pay it back in a timely manner? Do we have to hunt them down? Do we have to chase them? Are they basically a high-risk person? That's essentially what your credit score is. And effectively, that's what credit is used for. Basically, to me, credit is just a good form of leverage. It's money that you don't have to have. It's money supplied by the bank. It's one of the few things that the bank will be a valuable asset in, it's loaning money. But credit's risky because if you kind of abuse credit, you can really screw yourself over financially for the long term. Not managing credit correctly will definitely cost you a ton of money in the long run. So I just truly want to advocate, as we get into this video, be very mindful of your credit. Always be checking it. It's extremely important. It's extremely valuable. I really think, especially when you're younger, you take for granted how important credit truly is. Yo, Trey, what's up, man? But you definitely want to be mindful of your credit. You definitely want to make sure you're growing you're increasing your credit score, because that'll be good leverage for a variety of different ventures you choose to get into. Even if it's basic stuff like just buying a house or just getting a car, the better your credit score, the more money you'll save, the more opportunities that you can take advantage of. So that's sort of the preface of everything. Credit's extremely important. It's probably one of the most important things. If I can go back in time to my younger self, I would say, look, dude, focus on credit more than anything else. You could be a lot further ahead if your credit score is high, if your credit's on point. So, one thing I want to point out too, If you have a debit card, which you probably do if you have a bank, don't use it. For the most part, don't use your debit card. I don't really see any true reason why you should use your debit card. You should probably just keep it at home. The main reason is one of the best ways to get your credit score up is to just be using your credit and paying it off on time. I think 35% of your credit score is based solely on payment history alone. So you want to be making consistent on-time payments. Me personally, my personal suggestion, pay off the entire balance as quickly as possible. Do not keep a balance if you can help it. Like I said, don't bring your debit card out. If you go to a restaurant, for example, and you buy like food, use your credit card and immediately just pay it off. Just pay it off. Sometimes it won't show up immediately on your balance. When it does, pay it off. Don't let that carry. Don't let that sit. Don't use your debit card because your debit card truly offers no benefits. And I'll get into this more later on in the video, but especially if you're using a card with rewards, like cashback rewards, or when you can accumulate points for spending money, there's really no need to use a debit card. You're getting nothing from using a debit card, but you're definitely getting at least some money or some points or some kind of reward from using a good credit card. So yeah, that's sort of one thing I kind of want to throw out there. Definitely always be using your credit card. I would say some situations to not use your credit card in. Obviously, if you have a high balance, don't keep cranking up the balance because you'll get into issues. My man's talking about credit churning. I feel like that's an advanced topic. This is supposed to be like credit 101, man. No, credit churning's interesting. I don't want to get into a tangent. Actually, Trey, if you're going to be here long enough, if you want to talk about it, I might have you pop in here. Because I know of credit churning, but I've never tried it, so I don't want to talk too much about it as if I've done it before. But yeah, no, credit's powerful. Yeah, like I was saying though, you don't want to use your credit obviously if your credit balance is super high, because obviously if your balance is really high, that means you're just not paying off your balance quickly enough. There's no need to increase the balance. It's going to really hurt your credit score. I think 30% of your credit score goes into just how much of your credit you're using at one time. So yeah, if you're getting higher, don't use credit. But if you're paying it off consistently, if you're being responsible with credit, then definitely only use your credit card. Don't use your debit card. I don't see any real reason to do that. Even for like automatic payments, use your credit. And maybe towards the end, I'll get into like some strategies that you can do just to make sure you're not overspending or kind of screwing yourself over. But definitely do that. By the way, I can't tell if like the sun is like killing the screen, so I might move because like it's really dark over here. So I apologize for that. I don't think that's any better. Doesn't matter though. If you can hear my voice, then that's all that matters. You don't need to be looking at this too much. So I'm going to start from step 0. Step 0, if you don't have credit, get credit. That was fine. Maybe I should go back because it sounds like. But step 0, losing my notes. Step 0, if you don't have credit, get credit. What is the simplest way to get credit? I would say if you can't find someone to co-sign for you, or if you can't get credit under their name, like if you have a parent or maybe a close uncle or something, I would say the simplest way is to get a secured credit card. Effectively what you can do, and I'm going to try to break it down as step by step as possible. If you're watching this and you have any questions, feel free to kind of interrupt me. Basically what you want to do, get some cash. I recommend about $200, $300. If you can do $500, that works better. Go to the bank with the money and just say that you want to open up a secured credit card. What they'll do is they'll take the money, it'll sort of be used as collateral, and they'll give you a credit card. Now, effectively it'll work more like a debit card because you're only spending up to whatever your, let's call it a down payment. Whatever your down payment, whatever your collateral was, that is how much you'll be able to spend. But the reason why you want to do this, because it essentially gets your foot in the door to start building credit if you have no one to help you co-sign, or if you have no one to basically have credit with you to start to build you up a credit history. Because when you try to get credit cards, the bank is looking at your FICO scores, they're looking at all of your different credit scores, and they want to determine, is this person worth giving money to? Is this person worth lending money to? Obviously, if you're younger, you don't have a credit history, so they can't determine if you're risky. And most likely, if you're younger, you're probably super risky. So having that secured credit card kind of gets your foot in the door. Quick story, I had a buddy in college. I don't want to say his name because I know sometimes he watches my Instagram. But he did not have a credit card, and I don't think his parents would sign with him. So what he did, he just saved up $300 from just working in college, and he went to PNC and he asked for a secured credit card. They gave him a secured credit card. I think for about a year, he spent the money on the secured credit card, immediately paid it back, that's the key right there. When you get a secured credit card, pay it back immediately, because at this point you're trying to demonstrate that you are reliable and that you are worthy of a real credit card. He paid it back consistently over a year, and I think after that year he went back and upgraded to an actual unsecured credit card. I think it had a few $1,000 credit limit, which is good. That's really good. So he established credit all by himself. Anyone can do this. Like I said, the steps are: 1, save up money, save about $200 to $500. If you want to do more, you can do more, but $200 to $500, especially if you're younger, is reasonable. You go to the bank with that money. You just say you want to open up a secured credit card. You give them that money. They give you the credit card. Your limit is whatever you put down as your down payment. Use that secured credit card. Pay it off immediately. Do not miss a payment. Do not have a high balance. Treat it like it's a normal credit card. And after about a year or so, I would say try to apply for an actual credit card. You should be fine. And by doing that, you now have officially credit. And you didn't have to have a cosigner or anyone else doing that for you. So that's step 0. You got to get credit. If you don't have credit, get on that immediately. Get on that today. Especially if you're in your 20s, like I said. I know a few of you that are in your 20s and you reach out and you say, I don't have credit, I want to get an apartment. Or some people I know are trying to get a house and you're just not ready. You need credit for all that stuff. Get it today, get it up, and we're going to get deeper into it. So that's step 0, get credit. Step number 1, get your score up. I would say the goal to shoot for, if you want to get some of the best rates possible, I would say go for about a 720 credit score. I think that's reasonable. I think that's fair. I don't remember all the credit card range off the top of my head, but basically I think if you're in the range of like 600 to 680-ish, that's like decent. I think they qualified as fair. You're about average with most, I think, Americans. I think a good credit score is like upper 600s to like 720s, something like that. I don't quote me on the exact range, and the reason why don't quote me on it is because you shouldn't have a low credit score anyway. You should have a high credit score, so the lower ones should not matter to you. And I think if you're in about the 500s, it's pretty poor. You need to step up your credit score. But yeah, your goal is to shoot for about a 720 credit score. And as I sort of mentioned, how do we get a higher credit score? Number 1, pay everything on time. Like I said, about 35% of your credit score is simply just paying it off on time. One of the main strategies I recommend, most credit cards, I believe, do this. I would say sign up so you receive notifications on every single expense made with the credit card, and also sign up for auto payments. For one, the reason why you want to have notifications when you spend money, the obvious one is you want to keep track of it without having to always sort of just mentally be thinking about it. If you go to a store, you want to say, okay, I just spent $30 today, I spent $40 here, I got $70 total, let me just pay that off. Second reason why I say sign up for auto payments, realistically speaking, you probably will forget to, pay off your card immediately. You might be out with friends at a restaurant, you buy something, I don't know, let's say you spend $50 on food one night, and maybe it doesn't immediately show up on your balance. So now you forget about it. Week goes by, you haven't paid it off. That's fine. If you set up auto payments, it'll alert you when the payment is made, and it'll sort of keep your credit in mind. You want to constantly keep your credit in mind. And it's sort of like a backup plan, just in case you forget. You really don't want to be missing payments. Trust me when I say this. I've done it in the past. I've made that mistake where I've missed payments. It's a pain. quick little thing, if you miss too many payments, what'll eventually happen, and I've had this happen, that's why I'm telling you this from personal experience, your bank will actually start to jack up the monthly payment required, because every card, for the most part, a lot of cards have a monthly payment that you have to be making, a minimum payment at least, if you carry a balance. And what they'll do is, if you keep missing payments, they will jack up that minimum. So it might start $20 a month, it'll go to $70 a month or $100 a month or higher. So you don't want to miss those payments, because once you start getting too high, you'll start to get into, I'm going to call it the danger zone. And the danger zone is essentially, you can never, it's very difficult to pay off all of that credit card debt. The reason being is because when you have a credit card, the balance also accumulates what's known as interest. And I'm saying what's known as interest for those of you that might not be too familiar with these concepts. Basically, interest, the bank charges you money to use their money. So, for example, if you have, let's say, $100 of credit card debt, if the bank charges 10% interest, they're charging you $10 every single payment term to use their money. $10 a month isn't that bad. It does add up, but the danger zone for a lot of people, and a lot of Americans get into this issue, is they start carrying really high balances. So now, instead of just having $100 on their credit card, they're carrying about $5,000 on their credit card. Now, 10% of $5,000, $500, you don't want to have that, because now they're charging you $500 every single, let's say, month, just to keep using that credit card. So now you have to pay off that $500 minimum, plus you need to keep paying off whatever the balance is, or else your credit score will get destroyed. So that's why I say, like, truly keep track of your credit. Make sure you're always paying off the full balance. You don't want to let that go up too high, because you will get screwed over, and it's very difficult once you start getting to those high ranges to come back down. I don't remember what the average credit, I think the average American has about, I want to say like 40,000 or 30,000 in consumer debt. I could be completely off. The exact amount doesn't matter. It's a lot. You don't want to carry that much at all. We got some new people that joined. What's up? I appreciate you guys checking out the live stream and listening to this very exciting discussion, or very exciting talk about credit. But trust me, you're going to walk away knowing a lot more than you did coming in, and you're going to benefit amazingly, because I'm going to save you a ton of money with all these credit gems I'm about to drop. So like I said, yeah, step one, keep your credit score high. Like I said, you want to be in the 720 minimum. That's minimum what you want, 720. Obviously, if you can get higher, get higher. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. One of the main things too you want to keep in mind is, and this is one of those things I think people don't truly understand, when you have a higher credit score, you're effectively paying yourself. What do I mean by that? So let's just say, for example, you want to go buy a car. If you have a low credit score, they're probably going to require, one, a bigger down payment. So that means you have to have more money up front, which is, it's just harder to do. Two, the monthly payments are going to be so much higher than if you have a higher credit score. So let's just say, for example, let's just use some really easy numbers. Let's say you walk into a dealership, you want to get a Toyota, you have a 500 credit score. Toyota's going to go, well, we'll give you a car. We'll give you a car that you want. But instead of you only requiring, say, like $1,000 for a down payment, if you had a higher credit score, and maybe instead of you only paying, let's use really easy numbers, $1,000 a month, well, now you got to pay $3,000 a month, and you require $3,000 down payment. So you're already spending more money because you're in a worse position. Now, let's say, for example, you have an 800 credit score, really high credit score. You come in, Honda's like, this guy's reliable. You give us $1,000 down payment, maybe no down payment, and your monthly payments are about $500, $1,000, and you're good to go. Hopefully that example is good. You can see right there, you're saving $2,000 simply by just having a higher credit score, by being more responsible with credit. A car dealership, for example, will allow you to walk off with the exact same car for a lot less money. So this is one of the reasons why you want to keep your credit score up. I truly cannot express how in the long run you're so much better off having a higher credit score than a lower credit score. You're effectively being screwed on every front by having a low credit score. So I want to make that extremely clear. If you aren't working on it, work on it immediately. So that's step number one. Step number 2, check your credit often. Check your credit score often. A lot of things that happen nowadays, it's very easy for your identity to be leaked, and it's very easy for people to use your credit without you knowing. Actually today, I was actually on the phone with Experian, and I found out that, because I try to check my score often, some websites that I had my personal information on got hacked. So my data got leaked. So there was a potential breach of security, and my Experian account, I shouldn't say account, it's kind of misleading. Basically, Experian froze their score, or they froze my score, Experian. And I'll get into that too, maybe later on. Experian, for those of you that are watching that do not know what that is, it's a credit bureau. Every credit bureau has their own credit score, and they report it combined. It sort of creates a FICO score. I don't get too deep into that yet, but like I said, check your credit score often, because things come up. There might be hacks, breaches. Something I've been hearing about lately a lot is that apparently in the dark web, it's very easy for people to get your identity and sell it in the dark web. So that's becoming an issue. You don't want that to happen. Like I said, if your credit gets destroyed, it's very difficult to get it back up. You'll be losing a lot of money, 1, from trying to repair it, 2, from just what you have to spend to do basic stuff. So yeah, check that often. Me personally, what I like to use to check my credit score is Credit Karma. Obviously, this is not sponsored by Credit Karma. I just like using it. Some people debate whether or not Credit Karma, I can't really see too much. People debate whether or not Credit Karma is reliable. I've never had any issues with it. A lot of people I know that have been in finance-related industries for a very long time use Credit Karma. None of us have issues with it. It's free to use. You can just go on, it shows you your credit score, it shows you all the credits that you have open, different credit accounts that you have open. It shows you your utilization, which is extremely important to know if you're carrying a balance. It shows you different cards that you have access to. Yeah, get Credit Karma. To me, it's the best one. It's free, it's simple to use. They make it look pleasant and nice, so it's not like off-putting. A lot of things in finance are a bit off-putting, too technical and kind of scary. Credit Karma is not that. So like I said, go check it out. If you're watching this on your phone, I would really recommend right now, so you're not procrastinating, go on your web browser, type in Credit Karma, sign up for an account if you don't already have one. Trust me, you'll save a lot of money and save a lot of stress doing this. Check your credit score often. Know if people are looking into it. Know if there are some inquiries being made that you are not aware of. That'll also affect your credit score. If people are checking your credit, like lenders or other third-party, let's say providers or people, if they're checking your credit too much, that'll create what's known as a hard inquiry. That'll hurt your credit score. So check that often. It's extremely important. So that was step number 2. Oh, one more thing I want to add to. I recommend doing this every year. I would highly recommend increasing your credit limit. Some banks make it easier than others. Some you have to call in and physically talk to somebody or talk to a representative and ask to have your credit limit increased. Some places you have to submit an application to do that. Some banks, I know one bank that I have, they make it very easy. You just go on their website and you hit literally a button that says request credit limit increase, and they just do it on the spot. And if you've been paying on time, literally in like a second, they'll increase your credit limit. The reason why I say to do this is because, for those of you just jumping in, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, there's a concept in credit called utilization. About 30% of your credit score comes from utilization. Now, what is utilization? Utilization is effectively how much of your total credit you're using. So let's say, for example, you have $1,000 in total credit. If you say you have a balance of 900, you're using 90% of your total credit score. That looks terrible on your credit score. It's gonna go down tremendously from doing that. So you don't want to do that. On the other hand, if you have a total limit of $1,000, say you're only spending $100, you're using 10%. That looks really good on your credit report. So your credit score will be higher by doing that. If that does not make sense, let me know. If you need more explanation, let me know, for those of you that are watching live right now. But yeah, whenever you can, increase your credit limit. The reason is because you can spend more without having those negative side effects of your credit score going down. Obviously, $100 when you have $1,000 total that you can spend doesn't look nearly as good as spending that same $100 and having, say, $50,000 that you could possibly spend. The second looks way better. Your credit score would be much higher that way. So yeah, increase your credit score on all your credit cards as often as possible. Don't every single month try to do it. Don't quote me on this. I think some banks might do an inquiry. I don't know if it's a soft inquiry or a hard inquiry before they increase your limits. If it's a hard inquiry, then you might hurt your credit score if you request to increase your credit limits too often. So I'd recommend doing it every year, just every year. Don't do it every single month. So that was step 2. All right, step 3, leverage credit. Now, I think there's sort of a scale of people that use credit. I think some people have the credit and they do it they use it for basic stuff. You know, they go out to eat, they shop, they use your credit, they pay it off. That's fair. I think that's the best way. It's the simplest way. It's the most efficient way. I think when you get into a higher level of credit, you want to start leveraging your credit effectively. And when I say leverage, I mean use your credit for more ROI positive activities, ventures, etc. And for those of you that are not aware of what ROI is, it just means return on investment, sort of a finance term, business term. But understand, effectively what credit is, it's free money. It's a loan. It's basically what credit is. It's a loan. It's a loan from the bank that you can use to buy things without actually having the cash on hand to purchase it. So one of the simplest ways to leverage a credit card, using points. Be out here. Using points, using those rewards is probably the simplest way to leverage your credit card. So what do I mean by that? If you're not too familiar, a lot of credit cards have cash back. They have different bonuses, different rewards programs. Every credit card's a bit different. So when you go to apply, I would just check and see, what different perks they offer. I'll tell you a quick story. A buddy of mine, I think he went to Italy, and he basically got to go to Italy for free. I don't know if the entire trip was free. I think his hotel room at the very least was free because he had a credit card that had bonus points that go towards vacationing. So basically, because he was using his credit card, because he had he was paying it off on time, he was getting points, and the points allowed him to travel for free. So that's sort of an example of leveraging your credit card to your advantage. He didn't have to spend any of his money out of his own pocket. The bank basically said, hey, you know what? You're reliable. You're paying us back. You're doing what you should do. Here's some extra money. Go take a trip. I think for many of us, if someone paid us to go on vacation, that'd be pretty sweet. So take advantage of that. When you're just starting out, you're probably not going to have access to credit cards that allow you to do that. You're not going to have access to credit cards with those types of rewards or bonuses. But as time goes on, as you say, for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, when you have credit for that long, try to get those cards that have different bonuses, different rewards. Use them. Like I said earlier, you don't want to be using your debit card. There's no benefit to just using your debit card. You benefit far more from using your credit frequently. You don't really benefit at all from using your debit card. There's just no point, because the money at the end of the day is still going to the exact same place. So use your credit card often, take advantage of its points, leverage your credit as much as possible. Another reason why you want to use your credit, a lot of people don't know about this. A lot of credit cards have built-in insurance. It's weird. A ton of people don't know about this. So, for example, say you go to get a rental car. A lot of times when you go to get a rental car, they'll ask if you want to take out, I think, sort of like an insurance policy or a warranty or whatever, just in case you get into an accident. You don't often need to do that. You don't need to spend the extra $100 or $200, whatever it is, to take out that insurance plan or that warranty just for your short trip. The reason is because a lot of credit cards have insurance built into them. They don't often advertise it. A lot of people don't talk about it. I don't know why. It's one of those things, one of those many things that school should have taught us. But when you get your credit card, usually they send alongside the credit card this very long piece of paper. It has all the different points, programs, rewards, etc. It usually also has a section about insurance if your card has insurance built into it, and it goes over exactly what your card covers in case of different accidents or emergencies, whatever. use that. Like for example, I have Chase as one of my banks, and one of my credit cards has insurance for if I rent a car, if I lose luggage, say if I go flying and I lose luggage, it has insurance built in for that. Every card's a bit different, but be sure to check that, because a lot of people that go out and say, for example, you go to Best Buy and you buy a laptop. They may offer you a warranty plan. It might be an additional $100, $200. You don't need to waste that money. You can just use your credit card, and it has insurance built into it for probably a much longer date. Like I said, credit can be used very effectively. You can leverage it to your advantage. It can save you a lot of money. It can even make you money. In this case, I would count this as making money, because any money you don't have to spend is money, in my opinion, earned. So yeah, be aware of that. If you have credit cards currently and you're watching this, I would suggest going on your app and just checking to see. They usually have an additional section where it tells you all of the perks and rewards and different programs you're already a part of by using their card. I would check that, see what insurance is built into your credit card, if any, and definitely tailor your purchasing to each card. So for example, if you have a card that just gives you points for traveling, use that. Obviously, if you have cards that give you points for restaurants, use that. You know, it's pretty straightforward at that point. What's up? We got some new people joining. What's up, man? By the way, if you guys have any questions on credit, feel free to shout them out in the chat. Like I said, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a real estate advisor. But credit is basically, it's a fundamental part of any big transaction, whether it's a house, whether it's a car, whether it's just investing in general. You're going to need credit. So get that credit up today, immediately. You need it. What else? Also, one thing too, credit, I'm not saying all cards can do this, but a lot of cards can do this. You can use your credit card to withdraw cash. And effectively, you can use that extra cash as a down payment for other different business ventures or other different investments that you might be making. Now, what specific investments you can use that money for, it's up to you. Me personally, my thing is, don't use credit for an investment unless there's a very predictable ROI that you can get from it. So most people use their credit obviously as a consumer. They're going out, they're buying clothing, they're buying basically dumb stuff they don't need. How many years did it take to achieve your So as far as achieving anything, I wouldn't even say I'm like achieving anything. I'm still in the process of it myself. A lot of this comes from me being in the fire and me trying to basically prevent others from making the mistakes I made. So yeah, I don't really know. That's my answer to that question. But yeah, what was I talking about? Yeah, so if you're using credit, for example, though, I don't recommend spending it haphazardly. If you're going to make any big purchase, my recommendation, make sure there's a good positive ROI that comes at the end of it. Otherwise it makes no sense to try to leverage your credit in that way. What's up, Dave? Thanks for joining the live, man. So hopefully that makes sense. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and I can answer them to the best of my ability. What else? All right, so we just did step number 3. Step number 4. Okay, this is a big one. Because a lot of people get caught up in this, especially college students. Avoid cards with high APRs. What does APR stand for? APR, annual percentage rate. Avoid cards with that. I want to tell you a quick story, and this is going to probably get me a little bit heated. Like I said, you'll hear me mention this a lot if you follow me on Instagram, on YouTube, any social media platform. I think modern day college is a scam. A lot of things that colleges allow, to me, are to the detriment of their students. One of the biggest things I see that's a huge detriment to students, freshman orientation, a lot of schools allow different credit card companies, a lot of banks to come in. They set up tables, and they basically get you to sign up for a credit card. Now, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of banks don't want to just lend out money haphazardly to people because, quite frankly, when you're younger, you're a risk. They don't like doing that. But what they do in college is they try to incentivize naive college students with things like stupid stuff like cups, mugs, t-shirts, just random stuff. And they'll get you to sign for a credit card, and it'll be a high APR credit card. So what does that mean? Basically, the interest rate on that credit card is extremely high relative to a standard credit card. So instead of having a credit card that might have like a 10% APR or a 15% APR, this credit card might have like a 24.87 or a 30% APR, which is insane. That means that when you have a balance, you're gonna owe a lot more money every single statement period is what I'll call it. Every single statement period you'll owe a lot more money. Basically, it's a very quick way to get into a financial disaster, especially in college, because quite frankly, let's be honest, most college kids are not that savvy with money. They don't have a lot of money to spend. They see the credit card as sort of an additional form of money that they don't have to pay back. They see it more as a grant when it's, like I said, it's a loan. Don't fall into that trap. Colleges are extremely guilty of allowing college kids to get these shitty credit cards and destroy their credit before they even had a chance to begin, their credit journey. Don't fall for it. Avoid cards with high APRs. A lot of things too, if you're younger especially, you'll probably get credit card offers in the mail. Rip them up, throw them out. Don't even open them. They'll try to incentivize you. They'll say like, oh, the first month or so is free, there's no balance required. Just ignore all of them. They'll try whatever they can to incentivize you to open that credit card. Now some, if you're smart, you can use wisely. But for the most part, if you're like a beginner using credit, just avoid them at all costs. They have a high APR. It's very dangerous. You'll inevitably spend money on that card. You'll rack up a balance. You'll probably owe a lot of money, and you'll get into this perpetual cycle of debt. So stay away from it. Trust me on that. Avoid cards with high APR. That is step number 4. So step number 5. All right. So step number 5 is more for the person that's had a credit for a while and they want to restore their credit because maybe they've been in bad situations. Maybe they had an emergency and they just had to use the credit. I had a buddy back in the day, about a year or so ago. He was going through financial problems. Actually, it was during COVID. He had issues with money. He lost his job. And I think to top it off, I think he was driving on the highway. His transmission went out, so he had to go tow his car to a nearby shop. They quote him for I think about $700 or $800, which he did not have. But he did have a credit card with a $1,000 limit. So he used his credit card to pay for his transmission to be fixed for his vehicle. Now, stuff like that happens. Obviously, emergencies happen. You can't predict everything. But for those of you that get into situations like that, you need to pay off that balance as quickly as possible. Obviously, it's very difficult if you're not making a lot of money. $700 might be very difficult to pay off immediately. Monitor your credit. But, things happen and you might take a huge hit and your credit just might, get destroyed. I think a lot of different advisors might suggest finding sort of like a credit card relief company. From what I understand, those companies aren't great. A lot of them I hear are not effective. I hear a lot of them are kind of scams. I've never tried one. I don't recommend trying one. I don't think you need to try one. I think there's very basic things you can do on your own to get your credit score back up. Some of them are obvious. Some of them are a little bit more strategic, but not that complicated. First one I would say is the most obvious one. Pay down your balance. Stop. And this goes back to what I said earlier. If you have a high balance, don't keep spending money. You're not concerned about the perks. You're not concerned about the rewards at this point if you have a high balance. Your primary focus should be getting that balance down so that way your credit score can go back up. Your credit score going up is what's more important than the small pennies or the small points you're getting from using that credit card. So start with that. Pay down the balance if you have a high balance. Obviously, this will take time. What I recommend, if you have a lot of credit cards, and this is where it gets a bit difficult, this is where it might get a little bit stressful. If you have a lot of credit cards, I would say number one, tackle the card first that has the highest minimum payments. Why do I say that? If you have, say, 4 credit cards, and maybe 3 of the 4 credit cards, you only have to pay $20 a month, but that last credit card, you have to pay about $150 a month, $100 a month, whatever, $75 a month. Start with that one because that one's costing you the most money to keep active. That one's costing you the most to have a balance on. So pay that one down first. and pay it aggressively if you can. I would say in that situation, you might be better off just paying the minimum for the other cards and pooling all of the remaining extra cash you have into just paying down that single credit card that has the highest monthly minimum payments. Like I said, no matter what, paying down any card will decrease your utilization, which will increase your credit score. But it'll save you more money if you tackle the one that's costing you the most money. Hopefully that makes sense. So I would say start there. If they all have the exact same minimum payment, I would say tackle the card that has the highest APR. Going back to what I said earlier, your APR is basically, it's going to be your interest rate. Whatever card has the highest APR is costing you the most money on that end. They're charging you more money monthly to keep a balance on their card and to keep that card active. So what I would recommend doing is pay down that card with the highest APR. So just to kind of reiterate that point, if you have a balance, pay down the card with the highest minimum monthly payment. Do that first. If they all have the exact same minimum monthly payment or something similar, at that point what you're going to do is tackle the card with the highest APR, because that one's also costing you a lot of money to keep open. That one's costing you money to have a balance. Do that. I don't recommend closing credit. Also, don't do that. Don't close your credit down, because that'll affect your credit score negatively as well usually. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would just pay off the balance as quickly and as aggressively as possible. So that'd be the first thing. Pay off the balance. That's the most straightforward. That's the simplest thing you can do. Obviously, at times, that's not always easy. That's not difficult, especially if you're not making a lot of money. You can't just take your money and pay it down because you have other expenses that need to be accounted for. So if you can't simply pay down all of that debt, I would say the next step is try to call the bank and try to negotiate. A lot of these banks pay a lot of money to keep you as a customer. You might have some wiggle room where you could probably call them and say, hey, you know what, man, I'm going through hard times. I've been making my payments up until this point. During this point, for example, I was in a pandemic, bad things happened. I couldn't afford these payments, so I got a little bit behind. As you can see, up until that point, I've been paying consistently. I've been paying on time. I've been, doing my job as someone that uses your bank's services, whatever you want to call it. A lot of times they might be willing to negotiate with you, and they might say, you know what we'll do is for the next few months, we'll give you a zero, we won't charge you interest on your card. They might be willing to reduce the minimum monthly payment so it's more affordable for you. To my knowledge, I've never heard of a situation where they're willing to just get rid of your debt. I'm not saying they won't do that. I'm just saying I've never heard of it. You can try, certainly try. But from what I do know, they will either stop interest payments and allow you to catch up a little bit, or they will decrease the minimum monthly payment that you have to spend. So those are two options. Call. So I would say that's a second bullet point in the whole strategy you can use to fix your credit. I would say the next bullet point, if possible, I mentioned this earlier, increase your overall credit limit, because at the very least that'll help your credit score, and when your credit score is higher, that'll let you better use the fourth strategy I'm about to recommend. But if you can, try to increase your credit limits. If you haven't been consistent for a very long time, you probably won't be allowed to increase your credit limit, because they're going to see you as a bit of a risk and they're just not going to let you do it. So I would, if you miss maybe like a payment or two and you think you're getting into sort of murky waters, try to increase that credit limit. It might buy you time. It might help you out a little bit. That would be my third bullet point recommendation. Increase your credit limit if you need to get your credit score up higher and you have a lot of debt. The fourth thing I would recommend, fourth bullet point, and I'm going to sort of lump two things together because I think they're both more or less the same. They achieve the same effect. Either take out a personal loan, and it's weird because a lot of people stay away from loans. I don't always recommend getting loans. I think there are some loans that are obviously good, and there are some loans that are bad. In this case, I'm going to say this is a good loan because it'll help you in the long run. Take out a personal loan and take all of your credit card debt and move it and let that personal loan pay off all that debt. And why do I say this? The reason why you want to sort of take out that personal loan is because you're still paying you're still paying back that loan, but you get the benefit of having your credit score go back up if you use the loan to pay off all your credit card debt, if that makes sense. Now, obviously, the more credit card debt you have, the more difficult that'll be. My suggestion on taking out a loan like that, take it out if the monthly payment for your loan is about the same as what you're paying for your credit card debt. If it's a little bit more, fair enough. Let's say, for example, you have a lot of credit card debt. Monthly, you have to pay at the very minimum $400. To me, it makes sense to take out a loan if that loan's monthly payment is also $400, or even if it's $450, maybe $500 if you can manage to pay that $500 off. Then to me, the loan makes sense, because effectively what you're doing is you're still paying the exact same amount, but you now have your credit open and free. Your credit score will go up. That'll allow you to increase your credit limits. You'll be able to do more with a higher credit score than with just a standard personal loan, if that makes sense. So that would be the option I would go with. Try to get a personal loan if possible. Let the personal loan pay off all of your debt, and then just pay that personal loan. Pay that off quickly and aggressively, of course, but I would say do that. And sort of the second part of that I'd recommend, if possible, open another credit card that allows you to transfer balances. So some credit cards allow you to transfer balances from other credit cards into it, and a lot of good credit cards will also have a 0% APR for the first year. I highly recommend doing that if you have a high credit card balance. Just transfer transfer your balances from the other credit card to the new credit card, pay it off quickly. The good thing with that is, since you have a 0% APR for the first year, you're not paying interest on that. So it's more manageable that way. You can pay it down more aggressively. But yeah, that would be basically the main strategies I recommend when it comes to repairing your credit. I don't know of too many other options that will get your credit back up. I guess another option could be bankruptcy. I don't recommend that at all, because your credit will definitely take a big hit. And there's probably other simpler, more feasible ways of just paying off the debt, working a little bit more, putting more money into it. That's more effective than just declaring bankruptcy. So yeah, that was sort of step 5. That was a very long step 5. If you're still watching this, I appreciate you kind of sticking around for that. It's a lot. Yeah, one more thing too. I have a note here for this. Check like I said this a little bit earlier, check your credit report often for any dings or inquiries. For example, from what I understand, a lot of people, when they pay off their student loan debt, they think they're debt-free and clear. And while they aren't paying money for their debt, on their credit report, the student loan debt is still technically there. Because in some cases, some debts you have to actually write a letter to have removed, or you have to call a company and have it removed. So like I said, check your report often to see what's actually on the report, what's being reported, to see if it's affecting your credit score, and if it's dinging anything, or if it's creating any, negative marks on your score. One thing too to throw out there, it's weird because I've read a bunch of different financial books and credit books, and they all give different advice. They all give different recommendations, some of which are just not true. It does not cost you money to look up your credit score. If you need to look up your general FICO score, Credit Karma, you can do that. Most credit cards usually, and I think a lot of banks usually have a free credit check built in. You might not be able to do it super frequently, but at the very least, once a quarter, maybe once a month, depending on the bank, you can usually look up your credit score and your credit report, and it shows all the credit reports from the 3 main bureaus: Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Do that frequently. You don't have to pay for it. If you find a company that says that, they'll send you reports for X amount of money, ignore them. It's a ripoff. They're basically preying on people not knowing that they can just pull that up for free. Literally just Google free credit report. You'll probably find Credit Karma will probably come up first, but you'll probably find other resources that'll let you do it for free. One thing too that you can do, to my knowledge, once a quarter, I believe all of the credit bureaus will allow you to go on their website and just check your credit, check each respective credit report for free. So every quarter, just go on, put it in your calendar on your phone, just say check credit report. Every quarter, go to Experian.com, I think it's Experian.com, go to TransUnion, and go to Equifax, and just check your credit score. Get a report, it's free, you can do that once a quarter. It does not create any negative inquiries. Yeah, and do that, because you need to keep track of your credit score. I cannot stress this enough. It's extremely important. It'll save you a lot of money in the long run. It's vital. Just trust me, do it. I've been down that rabbit hole. You don't want to go down it. What's up? Who is this? But yeah, for anyone that is still on the live, I'm going to stay on for another like 5 minutes or so. Feel free to ask any questions. If not, always feel free to DM me. I usually always put up like an Ask Me Anything like daily on my Instagram story. So always feel free to reach out and just shoot me a DM. If it's private, I'll answer it in private. If it's something that isn't private and I think other people can benefit from it, I'll usually do a video and share it as a story. So let me know what you bankruptcy. What about bankruptcy? Are you asking, should you go bankrupt? Because I don't recommend it. But yeah. But credit's one of those weird things, though. Like, it blows my mind that in college they don't talk about credit. I truly, as I'm thinking about it, I don't think I remember a single class in high school or college that really talked about credit, that talked about APR, interest rates, hard inquiries versus soft inquiries, anything like that. These things are all very important. Real quick, while it's on my mind, I don't want to get too long into this, but I think this is also beneficial to kind of know, because I've talked to a few people that did not know this. When you go to apply for something, a lot of lenders will do what's called an inquiry. Now, some lenders will do a soft inquiry, and some lenders will do a hard inquiry. So if you go to, for example, like I mentioned, Experian or TransUnion or Equifax, they do an inquiry. What they do is a soft inquiry, so it does not affect your credit score. Some companies, when they do go to check your credit, they will do what's called a hard inquiry. A hard inquiry will affect your credit score. Usually it's not that significant if they do it. Yeah, they never talked about money management in school. It blows my mind that they don't talk about this thing that everyone should know about. But when it comes to the hard inquiries, you don't want too many companies pulling hard inquiries so frequently, because it will affect your credit score. Now, if you're not planning on buying anything in the near future, me personally, I don't think it matters that much. If you're, just checking around for rates, just to kind of get an idea of something you might want to buy in the next year or so, I say go for it. It's really not that big of a concern. It goes away after a certain period of time. And you can always check your credit report, as I said, to make sure that it's not there. Not a huge deal. However, when you're applying for something, say like for a house, this has happened with houses. If you're trying to apply for a mortgage, you don't want to go checking around too much after you've already gotten a loan. The reason is because, and I don't want to get too deep into it because that could be a whole different video about how to buy a house. By the way, if you're interested in that, let me know. I might do a live on that, kind of walking down the steps of how to buy a house and different strategies you can use. But you don't want your credit score to get messed up while you're in the process of getting a loan. So if you're checking around for other loans, they might run hard inquiries, and that'll affect your credit score and bring it down. I think those inquiries are about 10% of your total credit score. It's not a lot, but it could make a significant impact. So I recommend being a bit cautious about it and not haphazardly dinging your score by looking at a bunch of different, by having a bunch of people do hard inquiries. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that wasn't too rambly or too tangential, whatever you want to call it. And I think one final thing I want to leave you with before I head off the video, because a lot of people don't know this. And I think it's extremely important to know what exactly makes up a credit score. Now, I'm kind of doing this off the dome, so I'm trying to make sure I give you the correct numbers. I think there's about 5 different things that affect your credit score. Number 1, this is the biggest thing. I mentioned this earlier in the video. This is the most important thing. If you don't do the other 4 correctly, at least do this one thing. Pay on time. 35%, to my knowledge, of your credit score is composed of just paying your minimum monthly payments on time. Just pay it on time. Simplest way to do that, set up auto payments. That's the best advice I can give you. Set up auto payments. Don't try to memorize it. Don't try to be the person that on this specific day of the month you try to pay all of them. Just set it up so that way you know exactly what day everything's due, and set up an auto payment so it takes the money directly from your checking account or your savings account, whatever, and just pays off your credit card. To me, that's the simplest way. It's the most effective way. It's the easiest way. You don't want to be thinking about it too much. You want to pay more attention to your credit score going up, not stressing out over if you're paying for every single credit card. Because I do know of some people that play sort of a credit card hack game, and basically what they do is they have like 1,000 credit cards to keep their score high. They do a bunch of stuff with different credit cards. They take out loans with it to invest in businesses and stuff. That's like super advanced stuff. A lot of people probably aren't there. A lot of people probably don't want to get there or get into credit cards that deep. But once you start getting too many credit cards, it becomes a pain to keep track of all of them. Do auto payments. So keep it simple. Second thing, about 30% of your credit score is determined by your overall utilization. I mentioned utilization earlier. Utilization, basically, just to kind of recap, is the total amount of credit that you are granted versus how much you're spending. So like I said, if you have access to $1,000 of credit and you're spending and you have a $900 balance, you're using 90% of your credit. That's a 90% utilization rate. You don't want that. You want to keep it as low as possible. If you can do 0%, that is absolutely perfect. Contrary to popular belief, to my knowledge, they will not cancel your credit card for not using it. I think you have to actively go and cancel your credit card. I would check with the individual bank or wherever you get your credit card from, because it might vary from card to card. But for the most part, to my knowledge, they do not just cancel your credit card. You have to actively cancel it yourself. But keep your utilization rate low. 30% of your credit score comes from that. What is the next thing? I believe about 15% of your credit score is determined by your payment history. By your types of credit. So basically, banks want to know how many different types of credit do you have. Do you have a mortgage? Do you have car loans? Do you have student loans? Do you just have general credit card debt? The more different types of debt you have had in the past and have managed, the better it looks in your credit score. Now, it's not a lot. It doesn't account for much. It's about 15% of your overall credit score, but it's still good to keep in mind. Having a car loan makes you look a lot better. Having a car loan that you've paid off and that you're paying off responsibly looks a lot better than a person that just has 2 credit cards. Obviously, one requires a lot more responsibility, so you look better in the eyes of a bank or institution that's loaning out money. What else? And the remaining credit score, the rest of what your credit score is composed of has to do with the duration of time that you've had credit. So like I said, if you don't have credit now, get it today. Obviously having it when you're 18 and being 30 is better than having it from the age of 25 and being 30. But, obviously there's nothing you can do about it. You can't go back in time if you don't have credit. But if you don't have it, get it today, because your credit score goes up over time. When you start to get into the 800s, you need to have credit for a certain period of time to get to like 840 or those super high levels of credit. And then once you get into that tier of credit score, you'll be able to get better cards that have better rewards, better bonuses, all the different perks. You see some people, they have like the black card and they throw it on the table and it basically breaks the table. You can't get one of those cards unless you've had credit for a very significant period of time, and unless you've had different types of credit, and unless you've been paying your credit off consistently for a lot of years. There's other stuff I can go over. I'm not going to do this video because I think it's been a long video as it is. Hopefully that helped. Hopefully that was very informative. Like I said, if you have any questions, DM me, reach out to me. I'm always happy to help. Check out my YouTube channel. I have some other videos that are helpful. It's Leviticus Rich, the exact same as my Instagram name. I'm actually Leviticus Rich on all platforms. So feel free to check me out. I have tips on every different social media platform. And I'm gonna put free courses on my website and just sort of free guides. I'm actually working on one now. It's sort of a general credit breakdown. It'll be a lot better than this live because it'll be individual modules that'll go over very specific things. And it'll show resources. It'll have links, so you can interact with it a lot easily, a lot simpler, I should say. That'll be free. It'll be on my website. It's not out yet. My website is lennyrichardsson.online. I'm going to also do one for people that want to buy a house. I'm going to do two separate ones. One is how to prepare to buy a house, sort of if you're renting. The other one will be the exact process of what it takes to go from being a renter to a buyer. I'm going to walk you through everything. So you'll have access to all that. It'll be free as well. It'll be on my website, lennyrichardsson.online. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, that's it. I've been talking way too much. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have any recommendations for any other or suggestions for other videos. Let me know. I'm always trying to brainstorm different content ideas. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.